Hello, and welcome to episode 59 of the Yes You Coaching podcast. I'm your host, Anna Manning, and today we're going to be talking about Confident at Work, which is the new all singing, all dancing digital confidence course for professionals. And I wanted to dedicate an episode to this because whether you buy the course or whether you don't, this episode is going to help you to think about and understand how confidence building actually happens. So, most people will be in my world or come to me because they want to feel more confident to do whatever it is they want to do, whatever it is you need confidence for to do. And generally, with the people I work with, that is to do with their work and their career. Whatever you need more confidence to do, the work I do will help you to feel more confident. And I introduce the course by asking people, do you want to feel more confident at work? And are you technically good at your job, but you find that privately you lack the self belief and confidence which should come with it? Well, my friend, you have found the right place. So, in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the course and the background to it and all of those things. But while I'm doing that, you're going to be helping, I'm going to be helping you to understand what the problem is when it comes to feeling less confident and what the solution is when it comes to feeling more confident. So, every client that I worked with has been good at their job, but they still haven't felt as confident as they wanted to. And for most of them, they didn't really understand why. So I've been doing this since 2018. So that's 5 years of helping people build their professional confidence. And I was spending some time in the park one afternoon and I was thinking about the fact that I'd coached on the same issue. I think it was self doubt. And I'd coached on that issue like 5 times that week. And I thought, do you know what? I'm sure that there are issues that I coach on again and again and again. So there's common issues that I see. And at that time in my life, I didn't do my old job anymore. But part of my old job was that I worked in policy. And that was in healthcare and insurance in healthcare. And one of the things that we had to do, one of the things that we were responsible for in policy was to look at the data and see, okay, what are the trends? What are the things that we're seeing over and over again? What are the things that the data is telling us? And what do we actually need to do about that? Because I was working in healthcare and what we saw were that sometimes there would be the same problem that would happen for a patient over and over again. And so the organization that I worked for saw that it had a responsibility and a duty to look at that data and say, okay, we've seen that problem across multiple sites or across multiple hospitals. What what do we need to do about that? And I realized that it was the same thing in the work that I was doing now. I was the one that was holding the data. I was the one that was seeing the same things popping up over and over and over again. But unlike in my old policy job, I wasn't actually doing anything about that. So I was helping the individuals that came to me one on one to help them explore and look at the things that were, eroding their confidence and help them to build up their confidence. But whilst I was doing that on a one-to-one level, on an individual level, and that was great, and I still do that, and I still love doing that, I was like, I actually have a duty and a responsibility to look at what I'm seeing with those individuals and say, are there things that are common here? Are there problems that I'm seeing again and again that are getting in the way of people's confidence, that are harming people's confidence? And are there solutions that I can think of or I can suggest that might actually help people to build their confidence? And when I started, I was like, okay, what would I normally do in my policy job? And I was like, well, the first thing I would do is I would look at the data. So I looked over the data from hundreds of confidence coaching sessions, hundreds. And that was with like tens and tens of clients. And I started to jot down what were the common things that I had to coach somebody on? What were the common problems and the common areas that I was seeing when I was coaching? And not only what were the problems, but how did we help somebody to actually overcome those in order to build their confidence? And when I started looking, it actually wasn't in terms of the data, it was fairly obvious what the data was saying. So, what it showed me was that there was a particular set of patterns and a particular set of habits that were present when somebody's confidence was lower. And then by the time their confidence was higher, there was a different set of habits and patterns. So, and actually, like I remember having my initial kind of two pieces of A4 paper with like the habits and the patterns and the key things that I saw when someone's confidence was lower, and the habits and the patterns and the key things that I was seeing when somebody's confidence was higher. And there actually weren't as many as I thought there would be. It was actually more simple and straightforward than I imagined it might be when I started looking at the data. So what I did was I took what I was seeing in that um, on those pieces of A4 paper, I was like, okay, there's certain habits and patterns when someone's habits confidence is lower, and there's certain patterns and habits when someone's confidence is higher. Now, let me like theme those down, summarize them, and put them into some kind of format that I could show somebody so that they could understand and they could really like grasp it and understand really quickly whether they were, had the more of the habits and the patterns that were on my low confidence piece of paper or more of the habits and patterns that were on my high confidence piece of paper. And I created the high and low confidence cycles as like a visual summary. And that was a couple of years ago now, and I'm still using them now. And they've been tweaked slightly, but to be honest, not that much because they still hold water. And even when I have new clients coming in, the problems that we are coaching through, the areas and the habits that they can look at and that they can change in order to build their own confidence, they still appear on those high and low confidence cycles. And I'm going to link them in the show notes. So if you want to have a kind of a look at them and a scroll through while I'm talking, then you are very welcome. So what I realized once I'd kind of done all this work and I could see what the patterns were, so I knew what somebody's habits would be like when their confidence was lower, and I knew what someone's habits would be like once their confidence was higher, and I also knew that I had ways of coaching people, training them, and supporting them for every single one of those habits. There was a solution, which, it's not rocket science, and it's possible for people to do. It's possible for people to do the work they needed to do in order to go from the low confidence cycle to the high confidence cycle. And I knew it was possible because I'd worked one on one with clients to do that over and over again. But I was like, well, what if somebody didn't have to sit with me one on one and actually I could have a process that I could take them through, which would help them to see, okay, here are the habits that are currently making my confidence lower than it might be, and here are the things that I need to do to change that to get into this other set of habits, this high confidence cycle habits. And I did bits of training, on various bits of this work. So I might do a training, and some of you might have been to them, a training about how to quiet your inner critic, right? That was the number one thing on all of the low confidence cycles that I saw. And I might do a training around perfectionism or standards, and that was kind of the number two bucket of things. And then I might do a podcast about how to, acknowledge yourself and recognize the positives as well as the negatives, and do internal as well as external validation. So I was doing all of that in kind of disparate places, but I thought, well, what if I could actually bring all of that together and create this comprehensive course where I use this process that I've created. So, this process of helping somebody to identify their low confidence cycle habits and then rewire their brain in order to help them move into the high confidence cycle habits. It's like, what if I could actually just do all that as a course, as a training, so that not every person who could potentially benefit from this work has to sit with me one on one and actually do that work for 3 months, which is what I usually do with people. What if somebody could just get all the benefit of that and take it away in their own time, in their own place, in the privacy of their own home, and do that learning independently? And that is basically what this course, Confident at Work, is here to do. And if you are thinking, oh, maybe that could be useful for me, then stay with us. But what I want to do is tell you a little bit more about that low confidence cycle and a bit more about the high confidence cycle and a bit more about how the course will help you to go from one to the other. So there are four basic modules in the horse. The horse has four basic modules. No, the course has four basic modules, and in there, in each of the modules, there's a video lesson. And for if you've seen the high confidence cycle and the low confidence cycle, or if you're looking at them now, there is a corresponding video lesson for every single one of those bullet points that you can see in there. So basically, there are three very particular areas that I ask people about when they first come on a call with me. I really want to understand where is their confidence at right now. So imagine if I was on a call with you and you were saying to me, okay, I'd like to feel more confident at work. I would be asking questions designed to ascertain where are you right now? Are you in more of a low confidence cycle? Are you in more of a high confidence cycle? And I would be asking you about, how do you manage yourself? So are you quite critical of yourself, or are you fairly supportive? I would want to know, do you experience any sort of self-doubt, and what's that like? Is there any kind of imposter stuff happening? Do you doubt your ability? Do you doubt your experience? Do you doubt your decisions? Or do you generally tend to trust yourself and trust what you're doing? I would be wanting to know, like, where are those areas, or are there any areas where you might be putting yourself under extra pressure? So, are you telling stories about how senior everyone is and how difficult everything is and how you're going to mess it up? And before you go and do something, are you giving yourself a hard time in your head while you're doing something? And are you kind of beating yourself up on the back end? So I want to know, are you doing things that are creating more pressure? And I also want to know, like, how are you managing yourself kind of day to day? Are you able to sort of support yourself and look after yourself like a kind of like a good boss would if you're having a bad day, or if there's been something that's happened? Or do you tend to kind of, are you a bit of a hard taskmaster and you'll just be, pushing through? So that's the first thing I'll be kind of just asking in the background. And I'm interested to know those things I've labeled, like, how do you manage yourself? So we'll, not all of us have a boss, right? I don't have a boss, but all of us have a boss which sits inside our own head. And that boss manages us, right? It oversees the work we do, it comments about the work that we do, and ultimately that is the voice which decides, yeah, that was okay, or no, that was terrible. Please try again. So I want to know, how do you manage yourself? How does that boss in your head manage you? And I'm going to ask you a load of questions just designed to tease that out. And then the second area that I'm going to ask you about is, what are your standards like? So we all have standards for ourselves and our work, but I want to know what yours are like. So I want to know what, like, standard you're expecting. Are you someone who would say, I'm a complete perfectionist and anything else is no good? Am I someone who can handle mistakes and failures? Can I tolerate that, or would I find that incredibly difficult to tolerate? And also, am I somebody who will compare myself to other people or not? And that's the next bit. So that's around setting your standards. So I need to know, is this person going to be, you know, very hard taskmaster to themselves? Are they going to be demanding absolute perfection? How are they going to handle things when there's a mistake or a failure or a setback, which occurs for all of us? What's that going to be like? And are they comparing themselves to other people? Because those habits, those patterns possibly will keep you in a low confidence cycle. Because imagine you've got a boss that's like, we demand absolute perfection and nothing else is accepted. And then if you don't reach that, you get beaten up, you get chastised, and all the rest of it. And then the day where you make a mistake or you have a failure or there's a setback, which happens in everyone's professional career, that will not be tolerated. Again, like you'll be chastised. No one's going to trust you anymore to do your job. We're all going to wonder why you're here. We're gonna doubt your ability just because of that. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to compare you to other people negatively, just to keep you on your toes. But guess what? All of that is really eroding your confidence. So the first bit is I'm going to find out how you manage yourself. And the second bit is I'm going to find out about the standards that you set for yourself. And then the third bit is I'm going to find out whether or not you're able to acknowledge yourself for the stuff that you do, for the work that you do, for the progress that you've made, for the career that you have built. So I'm going to ask you questions designed to ascertain whether you're someone who can focus on the positives as well as the negatives, or whether you're someone who would tend to see one little negative and kind of ignore the other like 20 positives that there's probably been. And I'm also going to want to know, are you able to validate yourself? So are you able to say, yeah, you did that well, like well done you, and that was a good piece of work. Or yeah, you really made progress there, even if that wasn't perfect. Or do you simply rely on external validation, like somebody else telling you you're doing fine and you're doing a good job? And what happens if you don't get that? Would you be someone who would just assume that maybe you're not doing a good job? Or what? And then lastly, I'm going to want to know, are you able to acknowledge yourself for the stuff that you do or not? And they're those three areas, right? Managing yourself, setting your standards, and acknowledging yourself. And the reason that if you came on a call with me, I ask questions about all of those. The reason is because I know from analyzing hundreds of hours worth of coaching data that they're the key things that are getting in the way of people's confidence. When someone is already good at their job, but their confidence isn't as high as they want it to be, there is a reason why that is happening. And do you know, the reason may be that you're in a really demanding, perfectionist environment, which never gives you any acknowledgement on the outside. But the reason might be that you're in a really critical, doubting, demanding environment, which doesn't give you any acknowledgement on the inside. So I need you to know that, because I need you to know this is the reason why your confidence is currently at the level it's at. And if you were listening to that and thinking, oh, yeah, that's me, I tend to be, quite critical, quite doubting. I tend to kind of tell myself a lot of stories that increase the pressure. I'm really more of a perfectionist. I don't deal with mistakes and failures. I do compare myself. I'm really not as able to focus on the positives as I am the negatives. And, I need validation from other people, or maybe I assume I'm not doing a good job. But I very usually withhold acknowledgement about progress and positives from myself. I can tell you, you're probably in a lower confidence cycle than you could be. If you're identifying with all of that, this course is made specifically for you, because what it's going to do is it's going to walk you through every aspect of that, all those bits we just touched on, and it's going to help you to rewire your brain, change your thinking, change your feeling, and change your habits so that you can go from a lower confidence cycle to a higher confidence cycle. And it's quite exciting, because once you start to change your habits and move from that low confidence cycle into a higher confidence cycle, things will automatically start to change. So what I see with my clients over and over again is that they'll experience less self-doubt, less indecision, less worry, less mental noise, less overthinking, and less over preparing. And they will feel more confident in themselves and their work when they're interacting with others, including people who are seniors and clients. They'll feel more confident speaking up. They'll feel more confident presenting. They'll feel more confident handling challenges, dealing with uncertainty, taking on new tasks, putting themselves out there. They'll feel more confident handling even when there's been a mistake or they've had a bad day. It doesn't have to completely damage your confidence. Your confidence can be maintained if you know about that high confidence cycle and you know how to kind of manage your mind and stay within it. Once you really understand where you are and which habits you need to change, and you're willing to kind of do the work to change them, you're able to recognize and redirect your own thinking and behavior patterns, which contribute to your confidence at work. So many times when people come to me, they're like, this confidence is just this like mythical thing, which you either have or you don't. And what I can tell you from doing all that data analysis and from putting together those high and low confidence cycles is there's no mythical thing about it. There is a certain set of habits which are present if your confidence is lower, and there's a certain set of habits which are present by the time your confidence is higher. And once you can really see those and understand them, and you can know how to move from a low confidence cycle into a high confidence cycle in terms of your habits and your behaviors and your patterns, confidence is a natural byproduct. And that's what this course is here to do. So we don't in the course address very specific issues which come around because of your particular confidence challenges. So sometimes somebody will come to me and say, I can't speak up as much as I want in meetings. Or they might say, I really struggle presenting. Or they might say, I really struggle when someone challenges me, but I need to be able to challenge back. Or they might say, I'm struggling with trusting my decision making. I need to be more confident. Someone might say, I need to be a lot more confident when I'm dealing with very senior people. Or I need to be more confident in putting forward my ideas or in starting something new, right? There's all different ways in which people need confidence at work or they want more confidence at work. But what we don't do in this course is go into those individual issues. We go underneath the individual issues. So for every single one of those issues that I just mentioned, the low confidence cycle habits are what are creating the thing that are creating that issue. So when you think about I'm struggling to speak up in a meeting, for instance, if that's your problem, that's the thing that you need more confidence for. What I know is that you're probably being self-critical about your opinion. You've probably got self-doubt about how you're going to sound, about how other people are going to perceive you. You're probably thinking, I have to fake it and kind of hide anything that I'm feeling. And you're probably creating a lot of internal pressure in the stories that you're telling yourself, either before, during, or after, or maybe all three. You're demanding that the point you make is perfect and completely articulate and in your best English, because everything you do has to be perfect, right? And God help you if you make a mistake or there's a problem in any bit of it that you say, and then you'll strip off yourself afterwards. And then you're not going to be acknowledging yourself for the fact that you did say something and the fact that you made some good comments. Instead, you're just going to be focusing on the tiny bit that didn't exactly land as well as you wanted. And there'll be a refusal to give yourself an acknowledgement for the fact that you actually did it and for the good points and for the positives. Recognize any of that from the low confidence cycle? It's all in the low confidence cycle. So this is what I really came to understand when I looked at the data and then when I carried on coaching people afterwards. Yes, I could help them to deal with a very specific issue like speaking up in meetings, but The problems that were creating that problem were the stuff that was in the low confidence cycle. It was the habits and behaviors and patterns which were present, which were creating that issue. So what I didn't want to do with this course was just help people with like how to handle their nerves or how to speak up in a meeting or how to network confidently. Like all of that is great and all of that is important. But what I realized was when I did this deeper dive work with people to help them create a system, an internal system, a way of managing themselves, which was supportive, which was encouraging, which had realistic standards, and which was able to acknowledge and focus on positives. Once I could really help somebody to get into that cycle, those problems were much diminished, if not completely reduced. We didn't need to focus on all the individual problems because we'd address what was going on underneath. I sometimes think about it like if you went to the doctor and you said, "Oh, I've got this temperature. I've got this really high temperature and really hot." And the doctor was like, "Okay, well, what you could do is like you could put a cold pad on your forehead and you could take some tablets, some paracetamol to reduce your temperature. And you could also get some rest because it's hard to it's tiring when you've got a high temperature." Great. So the doctors helped you with the specific thing that you went for, the fact that you have this high temperature. They've helped to cool your head down, they've helped to cool your body down with the paracetamol, and they've recommended that you get some rest. However, what they haven't done is ask you the questions to ascertain why you have a high temperature in the first place. And if they had done, they may find out that you have a systemic infection which requires treatment. And once you treat the systemic infection, you're not going to need help for the high temperature anymore because your body is going to be able to regulate its temperature back to the place where it would be when your body is infection free. And that's what we're doing in the Confident at Work course. We're not looking at a specific symptom and just trying to put a bandage over that symptom. We're asking, why is that symptom happening in the first place? And what help do I need to give you? Do I need to prescribe to you in order to deal with the issue of the infection so that you don't have to worry about the high temperature? That's going to take care of itself. You don't have to worry about speaking up in the meeting because that's going to take care of itself when we've dealt with the deeper issue. When we've dealt with the infection, you're not going to have to worry about speaking up in the meeting. And the infection in this case is the fact that you're being self-critical, there's loads of self-doubt, you're creating loads of internal pressure, you're demanding perfection, and then you're beating yourself up afterwards and focusing on all the negatives. That's the systemic infection. So what I've built with this course is a way of helping you to ask the questions and identify almost like the systemic infection in your system. Where are the patterns and the habits and the behaviors that are creating these confidence problems, which you see on the surface? And what can you do to actually address those underlying habits and those patterns so that you can sustainably and like healthily move yourself from a critical, doubting, pressurized, perfectionist, focus on the negatives environment to an environment where you're less critical, where you're more supportive, where you're not constantly being doubted, where you're not creating so much internal pressure, where you can make a mistake and still maintain your confidence. And when somebody is acknowledging you and focusing on the good things that you do, and that person is going to be you, and all of this is in your power to do. And that's what I'm going to help you to do if you purchase the Confident at Work digital course. So I hope that has helped you to kind of see a little bit more and hear a little bit more about the confidence building work that I do with people and how I work with people, and specifically how I work with people in the Confident at Work course. So it's housed on a web platform, the course, very fancy, it's very lovely, it's got a load of video lessons, and it will give you if you buy it, you can access it immediately, and then it will show you how far through the lessons you are and where you are, so you never have to remember. You can like binge it all, or you can take it in over months. And as well as being able to access it on a web browser, there's like a really cool app. So you just download the app and then you put in the same login details, and you can watch the video lessons on the move. You can download things from there. So that's pretty cool. And in terms of like, somebody said, oh, how do I know if it's going to be right for me? How do it's going to be how do I know if it's going to be helpful for me? Well, I would say if you identify with any of the patterns on that low confidence cycle, so if you have any self-criticism, any self-doubt, if you kind of identify with faking it or sort of hiding fears, if you are not the best at taking care of yourself on a bad day, if you're unwittingly kind of creating a lot of internal pressure, if you have very high standards for yourself and you struggle to tolerate when they're not met, and if you are less able to acknowledge the positives and more able to kind of see and focus in on the negatives, this course is made for you. So it's currently £360. I'm in the UK because I know we have listeners from all over the world. It's accessible all over the world. It is in English. And yeah, I think that's all I have to tell you, actually. Other than I'm pleased to be offering something which is more accessible, because obviously coming to coach with me one-on-one, that's very premium. And I understand that not everybody can do that in terms of cost. It could be prohibitive, and maybe not everyone else wants to do that too. So if you are having, confidence at work stuff happening for you, I know for some people it can feel a very private thing, and it can be difficult to talk about. And that's the other reason why I wanted to create this course, because there's no one need know apart from you and your laptop. You can download the course and you can do the work in your own private space, in your own private place, in your own time. Nobody else need ever know, but you can still get the help and support that you need to build your confidence. All right. So I will leave a link to everything in the show notes. And for those of you who think, yep, that's for me, during September, so I don't know when you're going to be listening to this, but if you buy the course in September 2023, so anytime in the month of September, there is a bonus. So you're going to get a free coaching session with me, free 50-minute session with me to coach through any problems you're having with embedding any of the material, any challenges you're coming up against, or just anything you want to do with your confidence or your life. So buy in September to get that bonus, and I will see you in the podcast next week. Bye. There's a PS because there's something that I forgot. I should have looked at my notes. The first thing that I forgot is, if you are a current coaching client, if you're a current private coaching client with me, you will just get this course for free as part of our work together. So let me know if you're listening and you want it, but I will get in touch with you separately to let you know you can just access the course for free. For anyone who wants to come and coach privately on confidence with me, you will just get this included within your package so that you can have it. It's a lifelong program, so you can dip back into it. You can take various bits of training, whatever feels applicable to you. And last thing, if you're listening to this and you think there are members in my team who might need this, or I want to chat about how I make this available more widely in my organization, or for people that I work with, then do just drop me an email. I will leave that link in the show notes, and I'd be happy to chat to you about how we can bring this into your organization to help you build confident cultures with your people. All right, I'm really finished this time. See you next week. Bye.